Hello everyone, welcome to this series on summaries and synopsis of famous works of literature. And in this video, we are going to discuss Beowulf. Introduction. Beowulf stands as a monumental achievement in Old English literature and is considered the earliest European vernacular epic. Written in the 8th century, it presents the heroic deeds of Beowulf, a Scandinavian hero, blending historical and legendary elements. Preserved in a single manuscript known as the Beowulf Manuscript, Cotton MS Vitellius A15, the poem remains a critical piece of literature that offers insights into the culture and values of the time. Early life and context. Beowulf is set in the early 6th century, a period steeped in the Germanic heroic tradition. Though the exact date of its composition is uncertain, scholars generally agree on the 8th century. The poem's protagonist, Beowulf, is a Geatish hero whose life and deeds are central to the narrative. The historical context is enriched with references to real places and events, although Beowulf himself is not historically verifiable. The poem's Christian elements and ethical undertones suggests it was composed in a period transitioning from paganism to Christianity. The narrative is a part of the broader tradition of heroic poetry that is grounded in Germanic religion and mythology. Many incidents, such as the tearing off of the monster's arm and the hero's descent into the mere, are familiar motifs from folklore. The ethical values are manifestly the Germanic code of loyalty to chief and tribe and vengeance to enemies. Yet the poem is so infused with Christian spirit that it lacks the grim fatality of many of the Eddaic lays or the sagas of Iceland literature. Plot summary. Part 1. The Danish Trouble. Setting. The poem begins in Denmark in the hall of Heorot, ruled by King Hrothgar. This splendid mead hall is a place of celebration and much merriment. However, the joyous noise angers Grendel, an evil monster living in a nearby swamp. For 12 years, Grendel terrorizes Heorot with nightly visits, carrying off Hrothgar's warriors and devouring them. Conflict. After learning of the Danes' trouble, young Beowulf, a prince of the Geats in what is now southern Sweden, arrives with a small band of retainers and offers to rid Heorot of its monster. Hrothgar is astonished at the little-known hero's daring but welcomes him. Beowulf's arrival. Beowulf, a young Geatish prince, arrives to help Hrothgar, bringing with him his band of warriors. Hrothgar, though skeptical, welcomes him, and after an evening of feasting, much courtesy, and some discourtesy, at one point one of Hrothgar's men insults Beowulf. The king retires, leaving Beowulf in charge. Battle with Grendel. During the night, Grendel comes from the moors, rips open the heavy doors, and devours one of the sleeping Geats. He then grapples with Beowulf, who refuses to use a weapon. Beowulf grips one of Grendel's hands with such force that the monster finally wrenches himself free only when his arm is torn off at the shoulder. Mortally wounded, Grendel returns to his swamp and dies. Beowulf then displays the monster's arm to Heorot for all to see. Celebration. The next day is one of rejoicing in Heorot, and a feast is thrown in Beowulf's honor. Songs are sung in praise of Beowulf, and the celebration lasts late into the night. However, the joy is short-lived. Part 2. Grendel's Mother. New threat. Grendel's mother, another swamp monster, comes to avenge her son's death. She kills one of Hrothgar's men and drags his body back to her lair under a lake. Beowulf's quest. In the morning, Beowulf dives into her mere or lake to search for her. She attacks him and they struggle in her dry cave at the mere's bottom. Victory. Beowulf finally kills her with a sword forged for a giant and returns with Grendel's head. The Danes rejoice once more and Hrothgar makes a farewell speech about the character of the true hero. Return to Geatland. Enriched with honors and princely gifts, Beowulf returns home to King Hygelac of the Geats. Part 3. The Dragon. Transition. The second part of the poem passes rapidly over Hygelac's subsequent death in a battle of historical record, the death of his son, and Beowulf's succession to the kingship. He rules peacefully for 50 years, bringing prosperity to Geatland. New menace. The tranquility ends when a fire-breathing dragon becomes enraged after a man steals from his treasure-filled lair. The creature begins ravaging Geatland and the brave but aging Beowulf decides to engage it, despite knowing that he will likely die. Final battle. The fight is long and terrible, a painful contrast to the battles of his youth. Painful too is the desertion of all his retainers except for his young kinsman, Wiglaf, who comes to his aid. Together they kill the venomous dragon, but Beowulf is mortally wounded from a bite in the neck. Hero's death. Before he dies, Beowulf names Wiglaf his successor. He is cremated on a funeral pyre and his remains are buried in a barrow built by the sea. As his people mourn his death, they also express the fear that, without Beowulf, Geatland will be invaded by nearby tribes. Analysis. Beowulf belongs metrically, stylistically, and thematically to a heroic tradition grounded in Germanic religion and mythology. It is also part of the broader tradition of heroic poetry. Many incidents, such as the tearing off of the monster's arm and the hero's descent into the mere, are familiar motifs from folklore. The ethical values are manifestly the Germanic code of loyalty to chief and tribe and vengeance to enemies. Yet the poem is so infused with a Christian spirit that it lacks the grim fatality of many of the Eddaic lays or the sagas of Icelandic literature. Beowulf himself seems more altruistic than Germanic heroes or the ancient Greek heroes of the Iliad. It is significant that his 3 battles are not against men, which would entail the retaliation of the blood feud, but against evil monsters, enemies of the whole community and of civilization itself. Many critics have seen the poem as a Christian allegory in which Beowulf, the champion of goodness and light, fights the forces of evil and darkness. His sacrificial death is seen not as tragic but as befitting the end of a good, some would say too good, hero's life. That is not to say that Beowulf is an optimistic poem. English writer and Old English scholar J.R.R. Tolkien suggested that its total effect is more like a long lyrical elegy than an epic. Even the earlier, happier section in Denmark is filled with ominous references that would have been well understood by contemporary audiences. Thus, after Grendel's death, King Hrothgar speaks sanguinely of the future, which the audience would know will end with the destruction of his line and the burning of Heorot. In the second part, the movement is slow and funereal. Scenes from Beowulf's youth are replayed in a minor key as a counterpoint to his last battle, and the mood becomes increasingly somber as the weird or fate that comes to all men closes in on him. Additions and adaptations. Beowulf has been translated into numerous languages. Modern English renderings by Seamus Heaney in 1999 and Tolkien, completed 1926 but published in 2014, became bestsellers. It was also the source for retellings in various books. John Gardner's Grendel 1971, for example, took the point of view of the monster, while Maria Davana Headley's The Mere Wife 2018 was set in contemporary American suburbia and offered a more sympathetic portrayal of Grendel's mother, who was presented as an army veteran suffering from PTSD. In 2020, Headley also published a feminist translation of Beowulf, and her version featured modern language, including slang and profanities. Beowulf's enduring appeal was also evident in its numerous film, television, and theatrical adaptations. Robert Zemeckis' 2007 movie, a blend of animation and live action, was co-written by Neil Gaiman and featured a cast that included Anthony Hopkins and Angelina Jolie. The poem also inspired the film Beowulf and Grendel in 2005 and the TV movie Grendel in 2007. Notable stage productions included the opera Grendel in 2006, which was directed by Julie Taymor, who also co-wrote the libretto. In addition, various video games and comic books were inspired by Beowulf. Legacy. Beowulf's enduring appeal lies in its rich narrative and thematic depth. It provides a window into the values and beliefs of Anglo-Saxon society and continues to influence modern literature and popular culture. The poem's exploration of heroism, fate, and the struggle between good and evil remains relevant and compelling to contemporary audiences. Conclusion. Beowulf is not just a heroic poem, but a timeless literary masterpiece that transcends its historical origins. Its complex narrative structure, thematic richness, and blend of pagan and Christian elements make it a unique and invaluable piece of literature. Beowulf's legacy continues to inspire and resonate, providing its lasting significance in the literary canon. So this was the summary and synopsis of Beowulf. We will meet in the next video and discuss some other work. Until then, goodbye and thank you.